What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. This week, the Hypernet current sets in as the weekly Grandmaster, and today we're going to be breaking down all the best loadouts, strategies, workarounds, and currently functioning cheeses, so that you can make easy work out of this Grandmaster. This will be a great week to farm the Hyper current, as the pre-Astyanax solar bow is available, along with plenty of Ascendant Shards and exotic engrams when completing it on Grandmaster, and that's the only way you'll be able to get Adept versions of the pre-Astyanax. This Nightfall starts your evening off with a hearty course of the Cabal, with a dash of an extra large Tormentor, and to wash it all down, a tall glass of Taken with some light sprinkles of Vex. You'll see a mix of unstoppable champions, overloaded champions, snipers, blights, Hydra, and a Sparrow course. This Nightfall has it all. You'll see a lot of energy shields, but Void and Arc seem to be the most abundant. Your enemies will receive an increase in arc damage, which will make the blasts from any of those blights a lot more deadly. There will be a heavy flow of Void damage coming your way as well, so having Void and Arc resistance will both really help out. You will receive an increase to the damage of solar and stasis weapons and abilities, and grenade launchers will be overcharged. I've mentioned it several times already this season, but the Polaris Lance will once again really come in handy, especially on solar builds. But there's also two other exotics that I would recommend using, either the Malfeasance or Le Monarch. Both of these are pre-equipped to handle champions, and both are going to deal out a lot of damage. Stasis builds will be helpful towards crowd control, but I think solar builds will ultimately give you the most bang for your buck. You'll have a lot of power-ups thanks to the seasonal artifact mods, and you can take advantage of Radiance, Cure, and Restoration. And you can get the best of both worlds by just adding in stasis weapons while using a solar build. As you're running through this Grandmaster, it will be imperative for you to play at a distance, and not just because it reduces the amount of damage that you might take, but it gives you time to react to the Cabal turrets, the snipers, the Tormentor, and most importantly, it gives you time to respond to the blighted attacks, like those heat-seeking balls or the massive energy waves. The first few segments of this strike are pretty cut and dry. Just shoot everything that moves and progress forward. But eventually you'll make your way out to this lovely scenic beachfront, where things are about to get crazy. One advantage that you will have here, and one that will continue to come up later in this strike, is the ability to carry those Vex heads over. Whenever these drop, you should make it a point to save at least one, if not more, and carry them over into the more difficult engagements. These Vex heads deal out an insane amount of damage, and when you're using a Vex head, your super energy is going to regain faster. Here at the beachfront, these Vex heads let you take down those Cabal turrets and the snipers pretty quickly, and if you can save it for the Tormentor, it can really put out a lot of bonus damage that you otherwise would have had to use your heavy for. During this engagement, I always find it best to stick to the top right balcony. You just need to be sure that you take down all the turrets and the snipers before you start getting comfortable. The Tormentor can now jump up to this area, but if he does, you can use the big pillar to play cat and mouse, and it will usually just jump right back down. You could also abandon ship and use the broken pillars down below as cover, but that's going to put you at a much greater risk of getting flanked when the Cabal reinforcements show up. After the Tormentor is down, you'll jump into the rabbit hole and travel into the Vex network. Be sure to stay up at the platform when you first drop down, and take out the champions that are down below. And while you're up here, try to take out as many of the rank and file enemies before jumping down. And when you do jump down, be sure to watch out for any of the blight energy waves. The next section of the Hypernet is going to require you to destroy all the taken blights. And to do this, it's going to provide you with several Minotaur and several Vex heads. I would encourage to leave those Vex heads be, or at least be sure to keep one untouched. This way, when all the blights go down and you transition into the Sparrow course, you can have a Vex head to take with you to shoot down the big blight at the top of the map. Only one person can be holding on to a Vex head while going up the elevator lift, so be sure you don't try to take two at the same time. Taking down the big blight up top will remove all the blight waves from interfering during your process of crossing the Sparrow course. Now there is a way to skip a portion of the track to jump right to the end, but I would not encourage to do this if you're on Grandmaster, because if you don't time it out right, you're going to be dead and no one will be able to go back and get you. Your only option at that point would be to close the game entirely and rejoin the session. As you start this next section of the strike, you'll notice that there's a bunch of little blight landmines. Don't stand in these because they will hurt a lot. You'll also notice that you'll have another Vex head after killing this first Minotaur. You can use it to take down the blight energy waves that will be coming up ahead. You'll want to take the next section of this strike very cautiously, because first you have to clear through all the snipers, and then all of the adds are going to spawn from the center of the arena, but the blight waves are going to form from the outer perimeter, so you're going to kind of get sandwiched in. I find it best to stick to the outer edge of the arena and use the center facing structures as cover until you've destroyed all the blights. Thankfully the Minotaur are going to beeline to you, so you won't have to go hunt them down. Just be sure that you're not in line of sight of any of the snipers or the overload champions. And if you're able to, try conserving those Vex heads and bring them with you into the final boss encounter. The final encounter takes place in what I like to think of as a big amphitheater, and the boss will reposition a few different times, going from the nosebleed section to the main stage, with its final set taking place out in the grass. You're going to have those blight launcher pads, taken balls, and a mix of taken and Vex enemies that you're going to have to deal with during this engagement. But you have to keep an eye on the boss and its taken balls at all times. You'll need to take out the blights and the blight launchers as soon as they pop up. But if you take your eyes off the boss for too long, those taken balls are going to sneak up on you. And all it's going to take is one or two at the same time and you're donezo. When the boss is in the center or up on the main stage, I like to stay down in the corner towards the edge, using the cavities of these corners to avoid any energy blasts and other attacks that the boss and other adds might have. And when the boss teleports outside of the arena, out into the grass, that's when I relocate up to the main stage and hide out behind the pillars and the barriers, keeping everything in front of me so nothing has a chance of flanking or coming up from behind. And I cannot overstate it enough. Conserve those Vex heads to deal extra damage against the boss. It's going to save you a ton of heavy ammo, and when you're using those Vex heads, your super energy will fill up faster, so you're going to be able to chain your supers a lot easier. And with that, I think we've covered all the ins and outs of the Hypernet current Grandmaster. Not the most difficult Grandmaster this season, but it does certainly have its challenges. With the inclusion of so many different factions and enemy types, this has actually been one of my favorite Grandmasters so far this season. The biggest downside to this Nightfall is that it requires you to have Lightfall just to be able to do the Grandmaster. So I definitely feel for everybody that's not able to complete this week. But otherwise, what are your thoughts on the Hypernet Grandmaster? And how does it rank up compared to the others? Will you be farming out god rolls of the pre-Astyanax this week? Let us know down in the comments below. I wish you all the best of luck this week and throughout the rest of this season. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really do help support the channel. If you're a new Light Guardian, just starting your journey, or a battle-hardened veteran, just looking for a new home, then be sure to check out the Discord link in the description below and join one of the greatest communities in all of Destiny. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.